guests. Can you shorten up your intros? And I was just like, absolutely. And now I'm going to make this one the longest intro ever to kind of be like Rogers. It ain't happening. No, I'm only kidding. Rogers is great. They're nice people. I actually met Rogers. He's really nice. He's a really nice guy. But anyway, enough about that. This week on the podcast, we welcome, they're two guys. They're famous, I guess, on TikTok and Instagram, if you want to call that being famous. I know this is a horrible intro to start off with. But they have their own music. They are very distinguishable because they dress up in suits and they have a red couch. And you may have already come across them on these apps. But this is one of my favorite conversations that I've had because they're very laid back. They're very self-humorous. They bring the couch across anywhere, I think in Canada, mostly Toronto. And they've gone down to the States with it. And they actually include their fan base in it. And even with their songs, they'll do freestyles with fans and they'll post it. So it's great. Like they're really nice people. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Crash Adams. Hit the intro music and let's get this thing started. First thing I really wanted to start off with is I think I have contributed a total of $5 to your music career because if you go on my phone, I think I've downloaded at least 5 songs. Now, again, I'm a picky person, so I might listen to it for like a week or a month and be like, okay, it's catchy. It's sticking with me. All right, I'll give them the $1.50 or the $1.99.
Thank you very much. That's amazing, to be honest. That's like the fact that you actually, even that much just means so much to us.
I feel like there's more people out there like, really, only $5? What a pulse. Like, I'm just like, excuse me.
You know how many times you have to either stream or actually buy to make $5? That's a decent amount.
Yeah. It's like I think it's funny because I will ask people when they ask like, oh, Brian, like you have a podcast, like how many subscribers you got? I'm like, oh, let's not go there, okay? Because people will listen to your show, but they won't subscribe. And I was like, I always tell my friends, I'm like, why do you do that? And they're like, don't you watch wrestling videos for like 5 years and never subscribe to the channel? I'm like, hey, don't point out the hypocrisy here. Like,
that's funny.
I want to ask you to start off is how did you guys meet and where did the suit idea come to? Because I feel like this was like a How I Met Your Mother thing where you're like, I love Barney. We're going to just copy Barney.
In terms of how we met, our mothers were great friends. We've known each other since we were pretty much born, right? So we grew up together. We always vibed together. Like every time we would see each other growing up, it was always like it was nothing. It was never like we were forced to do something. It was always we gelled with one another because we're kind of opposites at the same time, but it meshed well. In terms of the suits, so I actually do love How I Met Your Mother, love Barney, but like I wasn't thinking that like on when we were actually talking about it. I think we were just at the studio one time where we were just like, you know what, when we perform, we always have to wear suits. Yeah. And it just kind of came to when anything we do, we just have to wear suits because like we love them.
I want to ask you, because you did say that you were opposites. Like explain that a little bit further because I know they come up with opposites attract, but like listen, I know a lot of girls out there and they're opposite of me. We don't attract at all.
Go ahead.
Well,
that's good.
Yeah, just simple things like, being early and being late. There's one right there. Just, what? I can't think of anything right on the spot. You got anything there?
I'm a night person. You're a morning person.
There you go. I'll wake up at 6 a.m. to do something, whereas he'll stay up till 3 a.m. and I just won't tolerate it.
Yes. You like running. I hate running.
I love running. Huge runner.
What's another one that was good? I consider Adams the regimented one. I'm more of the I'll start here and I'll end up right there and then all of a sudden I'll be there.
Whereas I'm very like, all right, let's stick to this. Let's get it done and then we'll move on to the next thing.
It's good. It's good because, like, again, like it kind of gives you a difference of philosophy perspective as well. So I think that's interesting. But like, I want to ask you, with the opposites kind of attracting theory here, it's like, who came up with the whole getting a red couch and going into places in Toronto and just being like, hey, like, you want to perform? Great, let's do this.
No, honestly, we both did.
Yeah.
We both we had a photo shoot one time at our studio. This is when we first started out. We were just like, we needed an Instagram photo. It was like our first Instagram photo. We took it on the couch. We saw it and we were like, you know what, this is kind of cool. We should try to bring it somewhere. And then it ended up working out.
I like how, like, certain people, obviously, like, again, once you get your big kind of an Instagram photo or something where it's like, okay, we got to make it look professional. You're like, I never want it not to be a professional photo. Where in my case, I'm like, man, just put up a monkey picture on my profile. And then people, like, when they actually see me, they're like, not bad. He doesn't look that bad. I'm like, yeah, because you had this to compare it to. It's worse when you, like, go up and dress like 10 out of 10 and then people see you in public and like, damn, what happened to him? I'm like, no. This is always me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. It's about being you, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you see for us is this is us. Like, this is what we love. This is what we stand for, and we're just glad that we get to show it in the way that we're able to show it.
I feel like now, if you ever post a video where Adams, if you're out running and you're not in a suit, people are going to be like, total fraud. What a fraud.
I'm always in a suit. No one will ever catch me. Don't worry.
Yeah. Going swimming. It's like, we invited Adams. Why is he wearing a suit? It's like, that's just him, man. It's like, you go on a date night. They're like, I'm pretty sure you have that suit. Yeah, I just changed the tie. Excuse me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes we're a little overdressed for certain events, but it's always worth it.
There's a little bit of a fun aspect I like about this, just from, I guess, the behind the scenes stuff, that I like that to me, it's behind the scenes, but then when I actually do a little bit more digging, even though you have it on your post, I'm like, man, how does that work? Because there's like a few videos. I think one you're at, I believe it was like a tennis court inside a hotel, and another one you're in an office. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then when you read the actual description, because people don't read anymore, it's like, oh yeah, we broke in here. I'm like, what are you guys doing? How do you even get in these places?
That's funny. No, I'll be completely honest. Like, sometimes it really depends on the story. Like, sometimes we, at the end of the day, we obviously didn't break into those places.
It's just to make it like,
But like, what might happen is somebody might on TikTok, they might see, oh, we broke in here, and they'll comment, you guys didn't break in here. And then we'll comment, did we or did we not?
And then they'll watch the video again.
Of course you didn't break in, and they'll spend all that time commenting. But by the time they're posted, they've already spent 30 seconds on the video, and it's hitting the algorithm now, and it's going right. So
and then it turns back the negative comment, and it's like, wait a second, I kind of like this song, and then there's a fan.
That's kind of
I mean, if we're gonna be full disclosure honest, I think I'm one of those people that did that, where it was like when we were in lockdown, and I seen you guys going around with a goddamn red couch around Toronto. I was like, what are you doing? We're in lockdown. And one of you commented like, relax, buddy. And I'm like, oh, he just called me buddy. I'm like,
that was funny. That's really good.
It was like, it's just like, you know what? Because it's two sides. Like, I get people that hate on me, and then I'm like, okay, let's be smart about this. But then I'm also kind of a hater. So when I hear buddy, I'm just like, oh, triggers. I'm just still like, you did not just call me buddy guy. He's not your guy friend.
I like that.
Oh my.
No, you know what though? Honestly though, during those times, like, we were always sure we were out, but at the end of the day, we're not gonna stop our progress. However, we were smart about it. Yeah, we were smart about it. We would never be going into a crowd of people. We were always very, very distant is the word. We kept to ourselves, and we just kind of did what we did.
Yeah, I think the key part of those videos specifically is, we specifically we ran into an empty street.
Yeah.
So we made sure we were away from people. We were doing the right thing.
Yeah. It's just, I like the way that you're presenting it, because it's like, I get the TikTok generation. I'm not one per se, but it's like some girl will stumble across and be like, ooh, bad boy. And then it's like, when they see it, they're just like, hold on, he's not actually that bad. It's like, I can change him. It's like, no, when has that ever worked? It's never worked.
That's funny. That's really good.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like, I dated Crash last night. It's like, oh, is that the guy who broke into here? funny story, he didn't actually do it. It's like, I want to believe it.
I like that. But like at the same time, yeah, like we're also straight up about that too. Like we're not really here to dupe people. Like if somebody actually asks us what's really going on, we'll tell them the full.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all presentation. It's like I like to tell people when they come on, like if I ever have like a Michelle Branch on or a Reba, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a great podcaster in Newfoundland, and they're like, oh, that's really great. I'm like, there's like 3 podcasts in Newfoundland. So it's like, you're the number 1 podcaster in Newfoundland. That gotta be crazy. I'm like, okay, what's me and my cousin Daryl? So, so like Daryl hasn't committed a podcast in like a year, so I guess I'm doing okay.
Yep, you're doing great.
Yeah. No, there's definitely more, but it's always self humor. I want to ask too, is like going through the whole, I guess, pandemic. How did you guys manage to deal with the pandemic? Because there have been artists out there that were kind of taking the pandemic and saying, all right, I'm going to take this as downtime. I feel like those are the famous of the famous actors, and all that. There, it's like, damn, I don't give a shit about my my fan base. This is my time. And then there's other ones that are like, man, we were just catching fire, and then this thing happens. So how did you approach the pandemic?
Well, we were catching fire. Well, actually, no, we weren't even catching fire before the pandemic. We caught fire during the pandemic.
Yeah, I guess
actually just before.
You could call it catching fire. I still think. Nobody's seen anything yet.
Exactly, yeah.
But
relative.
But like it's we got a nice little wave. But honestly, it was pretty much it hit and it was like, okay, we could either pack it in, but we're all in. We're making this happen. Doesn't matter what wall you put in front of us. If we have to kick the door down a few times, doesn't bother us. Well, we've been doing that since the very beginning. Like our whole thing is on the come up. It's all about just kind of smashing through walls and kicking doors down, because nobody's going to help you. Nobody cares about you, first of all, until you give them a reason to care about you. They care about themselves most. That's what I've seen. And until you provide value to them, you're not going to be noticed. So whether there's a pandemic or not, for us was just like, let's not stop. Let's keep going, because it's sink or swim right now. It's either we make it or we don't. Nobody's going to cry for us if we don't.
Yeah, I'm glad that went in the positive way, because with the moment where you're just like, no one cares about you. I'm like, imagine if you played instrumental music, or like, it's like very encouraging music where it's like, hey, this is Crash from Crash Adams. Listen, nobody cares about you. I'd be like, done. Out of here.
No, sorry. You know what? I have a habit of doing that. I just sometimes it just comes out of my mouth very bluntly. But like I'm always I'm not about sugarcoating things. I'm always
no. That's fair. I feel like we need that more in the world. I'm pretty blunt when it comes to people when they're like, "Oh, you have a podcast or whatever." I'm like, "Listen, don't get too excited, there, lady. It's only a podcast. Like, everyone has a podcast today." They're like, and then
a lot of people are trying to make it in the podcast world, just like musicians. I've definitely seen an influx of that.
Yeah. That's where I kind of get in the anger mode, where I'm like, man, like John Mayer, I'm doing the same thing you're doing. It's like, yeah, but I'm John Mayer. I can sing. I'm like, all right, check, please. John Mayer has a podcast. Move on over.
Yeah, but same thing. Well, same thing. You reached out to us. How many times did you possibly reach out to us? You kept going and kept.
Oh my God, let me see the list.
That's like, I respect that. To be
200.
No way.
No, but the fact that you were so persistent, because sometimes like it might just not line up with what we have going on, but the fact that you just kept coming back, like that's
what the truth.
That's a win.
Is, that's a win. We just get there's just so many things going on. We just get distracted so easily because this will happen, this will happen. And then Tobin must and then this will happen, and this will happen, this will happen. Right. So that's to be completely honest with you, it's like I do that with a lot of acts, but at the same point, it's like it's kind of after what you're saying. It's like almost like no one's going to feel sorry for you. No one's going to no one's going to give you a break. But yeah, no, I really appreciate that you did come on. Now, to kind of make it a little bit of a fun aspect here, to kind of give it a little bit of break from the interview, I want to play a game of Rate My Ties.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
No, don't get too excited. It's pretty dull. But look at this. This is a plain white tie. Why would you give this rating? Like, why would you wear this white tie with?
White? Ooh, what are you wearing that with? You're going black on black with that, with the white tie. on the top.
I feel like I am going High School Musical-esque, where I'm just so like,
right?
Yeah.
You know what? I gotta go. I'm gonna be tough on it. I'm critical because I have the tie. I'm giving you a 3.5 on the white tie.
You know what? I'm gonna give you a 4 just because you're a great guy.
All right, so that's a white one. Now, let's try this one. This one was one that I had back in I think high school. I was like super happy to get my first suit, and I was like, man, let's be funky. And now when I look at it years later, I'm like, God damn, was it ever funky? Look at this.
What design is that?
I don't even know what you want to call it. I just call this loser who went in and said, "Give me a tie."
I mean, it's your first suit, though.
Yeah. So it's gray and it has like light blue and dark blue. Like I feel like this is where you kind of like, you wear to a divorce.
It gets you divorced. It causes the divorce.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I would change my rating on the white. I'll give the white a 4.5. I'm going to give that a 3.5.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, let's go for something a little bit more corny. Let's go with this dandy old Christmas tie.
What would you? Oh, that's a Christmas tie. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. We have a nice Christmas tie too, though. I'll give the Christmas tie a 7.
Yeah. I want to say that I would wear this Christmas tie out, but then I'm afraid that people would be like, try to take this tie off me. And then they'd be like, I don't even know if you can get this tie anymore. This was like my brother's tie from like the 1990s.
Wow.
So yeah. What
back in the next 2 years.
Let's see what we have here. Oh, this one's not too bad. Let me see if I can get the right end here. Ooh, a nice red one. Well, I think it's nice.
That looks like dad on a golf trip.
That looks like a school uniform.
This is actually fun story. This is the tie that Avril Lavigne wore in Skater Girl or Skater Boy.
Actually?
No.
Oh man. No, I was thinking like maybe you saw her wearing that and you went out to go get that.
Oh yeah, I definitely went. I seen her on the set when I was 8, and I was like, "Give me that fucking tie," and she was like, "There's a person strangling me on set." I'm like, "Just give me the tie."
Now I gotta give that. I'll give that one probably. I think that might be my least favorite one.
That's fair.
Red blue. I give that a 3.
All right, let's go with one last one here. Let's see.
Something.
We've got this one that's kind of similar.
Okay.
This one's a blue.
But the color scheme's a little better.
Yeah. I like this one. This is like my go-to tie for like if I go out on a date and I'm like, whether it's successful or failure, I will wear this tie because at least I can go home and be like, at least I wore my favorite color.
Yeah. I think we need to send you some ties.
Yeah, I think that's what maybe some bow ties. Switch up the look a little bit.
Yeah, bow ties. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I feel like I'll have to. I mean, I don't have a lot of ties.
I'm gonna give that a 5.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You have to come up with like your own kind of Crash Adams tie.
I know that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, if we can make it fashionable, we will. We're about.
Who cares about fashion? What are you guys talking about? Just get a kind of Crash Adams tie, and then people would wear it and be like, "I'm trendy because it's a Crash Adams tie," and like that's how this works now.
But I still want it to look good at the same time, just in case they see somebody who doesn't know who Crash Adams is. At least that person will say like, "Oh, that's a cool tie," rather than like, "What kind of tie are you wearing?" And then they have to explain that it's a Crash Adams tie.
Well, that's how conversation starts. Like when you see someone wearing a band shirt, and it's like, who was it? The one that I think it's a comedian that makes fun of it. Of like, you see someone wearing a Tom Petty shirt, and then like they'll ask who Tom Petty is, and you're like, "You're not old enough to know Tom Petty, or you're too young. Don't worry about it." But like, it starts a conversation.
Yep, it always does.
Like besides doing the music side of things, like what would be some outside interests that people have? Like I know you mentioned a bit about the running, and Crash probably says sleeping.
Definitely.
But like what other ones would you have outside of that?
Outside interests, love watching soccer, love working out.
Yeah, definitely.
Things connected with that pretty much. But other than that, if I'm not doing that, I'm kind of doing this. So
yeah. I'm either working out.
Yeah.
Or doing Crash Adams.
Or maybe watching
sleep.
Basketball.
No, I don't watch. I don't really watch basketball
in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't really. We're just kind of all in on this. Like, I'd rather be doing this with everything now and then get to do it for the rest of my life.
But it's good to have outside interests because I find personally when I go in and do something that I'm interested in that's not music, I kind of refresh and I'm able to come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would
Right,
say
so-
if to add on to that,
Yeah.
then it would probably just be hanging out with, having a conversation and actually hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that
I think that's
great.
It's a huge key to move the needle forward in whatever you're doing.
I want to play a little bit more of a different kind of a fun game with you of kind of a random question where I'm going to toss out a random question. You can either like dodge it, you can give your own answer, but it's just for a fun aspect that you might not get in other interviews because that's what we like to do here. Be a different type of interview.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it. We've had a great time so
Yeah,
far.
it's been great.
Well, I'm glad because I want to use some of this for a promo when we do it, and I'm just like, man, we got to find some good clips here, which we have. We have found plenty. I want to ask you your most embarrassing moment that you can remember, whether it's as a group or even in your childhood.
I remember.
Go ahead.
When I was a kid, don't ask me how I remember this. I was at a family friend's house and there was a toy guitar on the sink and like it was my family friends. So I was a little kid. So I'm like, oh my God, I love that guitar. I love the guitar. So while my parents were at the table and everybody was at the table, like I went into the kitchen and I grabbed the guitar and I put it behind my back, right? And I was like this, and they're like, what do you have behind your back? And like I was like trying to sneak out, and instead of like walking out, like shuffling out, I turned around to walk out of the kitchen. So it was like, so I was hiding with it behind my back, and then I turned around like that to walk out.
That's like something you see. That's like something you see from like the Three Stooges, where it's like. Boop, 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 boop.
That was probably it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just what I can remember. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to a lot of Raptors games, and they usually yell defense, defense. So for about, I'd say 3 to 5 years, anywhere in that time frame, I used to go to these games with his friends and yell out hee ha, hee ha, because I had no clue what he said. And he finally broke to me when I was a little bit older, saying, "Did you know that it was actually defense?" And I was just absolutely embarrassed.
Yeah, that was actually yesterday. He told you that because you were still going to the.
No, it was pretty recent to be honest.
So when they were on their championship run and you're listening to Sportsnet, I was wondering who was yelling out "hee ha." I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, but
I was like,
I don't think we get embarrassed. We're pretty.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to get embarrassed. Like
Yeah, I haven't been embarrassed lately, to be honest.
when people, because I know you mentioned this earlier, like when people buy your music, when people purchase it, or any kind of contribution, but like, do you think now in a world where people, because I know we used to have LimeWire, we used to have all these things that caused our computers a lot of viruses, but I'm sure our iPods were like, thanks, free music. So yeah, the iPod survives. Your computer that gave you that does not. But I want to ask you, like, how do you find the music landscape today? Like, do you think it's a lot easier now because you have Spotify, you can create sponsorships? Because we don't really have the TV aspect as much anymore, where it's like you can go on a Much Music, you can go on a late night show. Like, I know they still exist, but people don't really watch them.
Political. That stuff's very political. I find, like being in. Think about it. When there's one media channel,
Yeah.
millions of probably hundreds of thousands, probably millions of artists trying to get on the same media channels. It's just so hard to break through. But now the fact that TikTok exists, the fact that social media has just made it so much more easy that if you have a message that people want to hear, they'll tune in. I think it's easier than ever to make it. Not to say it's easy, because it's not easy in any.
No.
You have to be willing to put blood, sweat, and tears in. But yeah, like it's heavy. I'm thankful for the time that we're living in.
Yeah, social media is the biggest aspect. And obviously for artists, when you get streamed, you're not making that much money at all. But it's not about that. It's about how can you get that audience, bring it over to your other platforms, monetize it. So there's a lot of different ways to make money right now for artists. So it's exciting, yeah.
Yeah, like, because the example I was going to give you is like, when I think I've seen a lot of UK, because like Instagram doesn't care pretty much where you're from. It's like they're going to just, like, if someone pays for a sponsorship or an ad, they'll come across wherever it wants to come across. But it's like, I've come across, like, I think Griff, which is a UK artist. There's been like Macy Peters, another UK, but I'm like, why am I seeing this in Canada? But at the same point, I'm like, I don't care, because you're going to, like, if I've stopped kind of watching like late night TV shows because the whole landscape has changed. So I don't think I would know who Macy Peters is, who these people are without, you know, Instagram ads, whatever. Like, cause yeah, past Brian would probably stay up and watch like Craig Ferguson and be like, oh, I like that act. Okay, let me go see if I can find their music. But like present day, it's just scroll. So if I see something and I scroll back up and I'm like, it caught my eye or that kind of, and then you're like, listen to it a few times and then download it. Like, essentially that's how this interview kind of all started way back when, where it was like during the pandemic, I was like, how are we going to do this podcast when there's not a lot of stuff that people want to promote? And I'm like, let's go on Instagram. Let's just, you know, pass the day. And then your songs come up, other artists' songs come up. I'm like, interesting. Like, let's do that.
Awesome.
Amazing.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's exactly like that's pretty much exactly why we're so thankful with today, because this can happen, you know what I mean? Just because you happen to be scrolling.
Yeah. And the other thing too with technology, I know like I'm not a big technology nerd, but I don't think interviews like this would happen without technology. Cause it's like, if I had this, if we were not in this world, it's almost like, yeah, let's do an interview. It's like, oh, you guys are coming to Toronto? Are you coming to Newfoundland? It's like, no, look, how the are we going to set that up? It's like, I don't know, Keith. Go out and sing with them like you said you were going to promise to with their fiddle.
Yeah, we keep hearing about.
Probably the manager.
It's my neighbor. He's like, plug me in your podcast. I'm like, Keith, there's Daryl, my cousin Daryl. And he's like, he hasn't come out with a podcast in like 3 years. I'm like, well, then go to him. He's the number 2 podcast in Newfoundland. I'm number 1.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.